at the very start of this conversation, you talked about that you're trying to expose more of your intellectual side, which I think you certainly have done over the last hour. And you also talked about your spiritual side as well. So I just wondered if a couple of minutes just on how you like to express your spiritual side, and if you've got any pearls of wisdom for us and our listeners.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I try to share a little bit more of my spiritual side through my experiences, which is just like what I've been through and how I'm still learning from those experiences to grow as a human. Um, and I think like one of the deepest, most misunderstood concepts that I've always seen ever since I like came into crypto and still it's less prevalent, but it's still semi-prevalent is like people tell you that you have to turn off your emotions as a trader. I actually think it's the opposite. I actually think you have to be hypersensitive to your emotions. It doesn't mean that you allow your emotions to fluctuate your decision making to a great degree, but it means that you have the ability to feel into the ecosystem that's around you, and you have the ability to like kind of like intuitively sense what's happening and what's moving. I do believe that every single human has this quality. I believe that everybody has different levels of sensitivity to that. And I believe that if you're not super concrete in your belief system while you're emotion and you get too emotional, then you can just spin off into fucking nowhere. But what I also observe a lot of the time is like if you become too rock hard, then you're just going to be making trades and investing in things based off of like intellectual nature. And it can work out for you. You can do the TA and you can chart things. You can still be really good at it, but you're not going to have a very fun time. And two, it's going to be extremely stressful on your body. So one of the things that I've always done, and I'll fully attribute it to my last bull run success, was I was able to very, very, very intuitively feel into my environment and feel into the communities that I was a part of and feel into the overall broad community of crypto and sense things. That's how I was able to like be very early to Bored Apes, Mutants, DeGods, all like famous foxes, tons of different things. Because while I'm giving you a lot of this conversation is very like analytical and intellectual based around how I view it, a lot of that is based off of how I felt under the surface and portrayed that like through the intellectual side of myself. And if you can start to kind of feel into the actual things that are happening, you can almost, it's very spiritual, but fuck it. Like you can feel into the group mentality. You can feel into when there's excitement, when there's fear. You can feel into these things. And if you can stay stable enough in it, which is still a practice for me, then you can make very, very, very good decisions and feel very good about those decisions. A lot of the times, if you get too stuck in either overly emotional or not emotional and like at all, or not in touch with your sensitivity and your feelings, then you are only making like decisions off of like concrete thought processes. And if the price goes up afterwards, after you sold, even if you did make a bag, you can end up beating yourself up a lot. And what I've learned is like, it's almost a spiritual practice to be able to feel into making a decision, B, make the decision, take the risk to make the decision, feel all the emotions that are involved in making that decision and how risky it is to, and then C, kind of feel into the place where you need to sell. And even if you make a sell and it goes up another 50 or 100%, being okay with that and like recognizing that it's all part of the game, it's all part of the process, and moving on to the next one and not getting stuck on the one that you missed or you were sold early or you sold too late is so much like it's a huge part of this game. There's way too many people, including myself sometimes, that just get stuck in thinking about old decisions, get stuck in thinking about the old patterns that were, and don't look at the potential things that could be. And that's what I think is so important in the crypto realm, because it's always changing, it's always moving.
Yeah. It's almost like you're not over indexing to your analytical mind, but kind of leaning into your intuition, which subconsciously is already doing this pattern recognition and trying to guide you on the right path and just embracing it, which I think is a great lesson. And it's hard to do consistently for me too, but it's an active practice. And I think, whether people call it listening to your gut or things like that, it does lead to better decisions oftentimes.
Yeah, and you can tell when your breath stops. You know what I mean? You can tell when your anxiety kicks up and you don't breathe as deeply. You can tell when you start to feel like a little bit more tense because your breath isn't moving and because you're sitting there on a leverage trade at 20x on with $20,000 and it's right about to get liquidated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can feel that like contraction in your body. And for me, like a lot of the practice has been honestly like getting liquidated and then sitting on my fucking couch after I lost 20 grand and just being like letting all of it, just like feeling as much of it as I can, just like hearing all the negative thoughts that want to beat me up, but continuing to breathe, continuing to stay stable until the emotion moves, until the energy moves. And then boom, I'm good, you know? And then not only am I good, I'm stronger for the next time and I'm ready to fucking roll.